Hello friends, welcome to Dental Tutorials. I hope you all are fine. As you know that I always try to discuss some important topic from assessment of clinical judgment exam. So today the topic that we will discuss is local anesthetic techniques. Today I have written a question for you. I'll first start with the question, then I will discuss some techniques of the local anesthesia, and in the end I will come back to this question, will discuss its answer, and of course I'll make some modifications to the questions so as to make my point clear, and I hope it will help you to learn local anesthetic techniques and the questions related to it that comes in ACJ exam. Let's read it loud. Name, age is 47. Patient's chief complaint is, I feel sharp pain while drinking hot or cold liquids. Pain lasts for 5 minutes. History of chief complaint is from 1 week with respect to tooth number 16, that is upper right first molar. Medical history and allergy, none, not significant. The question that follows is, patient wants to get his tooth treated. What local anesthetic technique should be administered? And here are various options that you have to choose from. Infiltration, inferior alveolar nerve block, intraligamentary block, intraosseous block, PSA or posterior superior alveolar nerve block, intraorbital nerve block, greater palatine nerve block, long buccal nerve block, or maxillary nerve block. Guys, in exam you get these kind of questions. But before answering this question, you first need to know the diagnosis of this tooth. We will discuss the diagnosis in endodontics, but today I will tell you the diagnosis of the patient, but we will primarily focus on the local anesthetic techniques. Guys, as you can see, I have listed various maxillary and mandibular local anesthetic techniques. I will go through each of them one by one, but let's discuss what are the various techniques that are available with us. The first maxillary technique is infraorbital nerve block. Second one is posterior superior alveolar nerve block. Third is greater palatine nerve block, nasopalatine nerve block. Then is maxillary nerve block. The maxillary nerve block can be administered in two ways. It can be through high tuberosity approach or greater palatine canal approach. Basically, this one and this one, that is infraorbital nerve block and posterior superior alveolar nerve block, these are given on the buccal side, and these are mainly responsible to anesthetize the pulp and mucoperiosteum on the buccal side. This and this, that is GP and nasopalatine nerve block, these are for the mucoperiosteum on the palatal side. The maxillary nerve block, it basically blocks the buccal as well as palatal side at once. Mandibular nerve block, the main technique that is available here is inferior alveolar nerve block. This is the main technique in the mandibular area. Then we have mental nerve block, incisive nerve block, and then there are two techniques. These are basically the variation of inferior alveolar nerve block. One is Gouget's mandibular nerve block and other is Vazirani Akinosi technique. Guys, in addition to maxillary techniques that are available here and mandibular techniques that are available here, one very common technique is infiltration. It can be used in maxillary and mandibular areas. We will discuss infiltration as well, because infiltration is very important in a dental clinic, because generally or normally we don't give these techniques whenever we think that infiltration can be given. So we always try to give infiltration instead of giving any nerve block, mainly because of its ease, or sometimes because of the very few complications that are attached with it, or the dose of the local anesthesia that we have to administer is very less in infiltration. In addition to these mainstream techniques, we have three more supplemental anesthetic techniques. Supplementary anesthetic techniques. These supplementary anesthetic techniques are: one is intraosseous, other is intraligamentary, and third one is intrapulpal. Though I have written these supplementary techniques under mandibular technique, but this is because of the lack of space. I didn't have space here. So basically these techniques can be given in maxilla as well as mandible. We will also discuss these techniques one by one. Let's discuss the maxillary techniques. So the first technique that we have is infiltration. Infiltration means it can be either on the buccal side or on the palatal side, because in exam, in the options, you don't have separate options for buccal and palatal infiltration. You only have infiltration that implies to buccal or palatal infiltration. It is the main technique that we use in maxilla. So the target area, the area in concern. For example, we have to treat 1-1. So basically the mucobuccal fold area above the 1-1, we just deposit around 0.5 cc to 1 cc of solution, of anesthetic solution there. So the target area is tooth in question, near its mucobuccal fold on the buccal side. If we want to give anesthesia in the form of infiltration on the palatal side, then of course it's not in the mucobuccal fold, it's on the gingival tissue on the palatal side. The indication: whenever we want to treat 1 to 2 teeth for extraction or endo treatment, or let's say scaling, when 1 to 2 teeth are involved, we give infiltration. This technique has a very high success rate. It is the first line of anesthetic technique that we use in case of maxilla. What are the contraindications? The contraindications are if there is acute infection or inflammation at the site of injection. Then there are some other indications for infiltration as well. If the infection is chronic, for example chronic apical abscess, we can use infiltration there. But if the infection is acute, we cannot use. Second is chronic infection, for example chronic apical abscess. If there is periodontal abscess, we can still use it. Perio abscess. One thing I forgot to tell you is the infiltration, in addition to anesthetizing the mucobuccal and mucobuccal periosteum or palatal periosteum, it also anesthetizes the pulp of the teeth in question. So basically, if we want to perform an endodontic treatment on, let's say, lateral incisor, we will give infiltration on the buccal side, because infiltration will anesthetize the pulpal tissue of that particular tooth. Let's move on to second technique, which is infraorbital nerve block. The infraorbital nerve block, the target area for this is mucobuccal fold above first premolar. Mucobuccal fold above first premolar. This technique is used when we want to anesthetize more than 2 teeth from the area between central incisor to second premolar on a particular site. The infraorbital nerve block, it anesthetizes the pulp tissue of central incisor, lateral incisor, canine, first premolar and second premolar. Let's say if we administer infraorbital nerve block on left side, then all the teeth starting from central incisor to second premolar will be anesthetized. That is, it anesthetizes 1 to number 5 teeth. That is from central incisor to second premolar. This is the area of insertion of the needle or the target area where we deposit the local anesthetic solution. The indication for this is when more than 2 teeth are involved. The second indication is when, due to any reason, the infiltration is not effective, or for any reason we cannot give infiltration. I will give you an example. So let's say if we want to extract tooth number 11, 12 and 13, since 3 teeth are involved, we need to give infraorbital nerve block so as to anesthetize the pulpal tissue as well as mucobuccal periosteum of these teeth. Then there is another example. Let's say if we want to extract tooth number 1, 2, that is lateral incisor, but there is acute inflammation present in the mucobuccal fold above tooth number 1, 2, that is right lateral incisor. In that case, since we cannot give infiltration, we need to give infraorbital nerve block because it anesthetizes the teeth from central incisor to second premolar. That is when infill can't be given. What are the contraindications? The contraindications for the infraorbital nerve block is infection or inflammation, acute infection or acute inflammation or cellulitis at the site of injection. One interesting fact about infraorbital nerve block is that it is a flexible technique. From the word flexible technique, what do I mean is, although the site of injection is first premolar, but we can bring the needle from the canine or from the second premolar side. So this is tooth number 13, 14 and 15. Let's say if there is some problem above the 14 tooth, that is there is some kind of inflammation above 14, we can still bring our needle from the 13 direction or from the 15 direction. I will give you an example where this kind of technique is used. So let's say if the patient wants to get his 13, 14 and 15 extracted, there we have to give infraorbital nerve block. But for the infraorbital nerve block, we need to deposit the solution in the mucobuccal fold above 14. But since there is some inflammation present above the, or infection present in the mucobuccal fold above 14, we can give anesthesia by bringing the needle from canine or from the second premolar area. The third technique is PSA, that is posterior superior alveolar nerve block. It is a very important nerve block because it anesthetizes the pulps of first molar, second molar and third molar, that is tooth number 6, 7 and 8. The target area for PSA nerve block is mucobuccal fold above the second molar. We deposit solution in the pterygopalatine fossa when we want to administer PSA nerve block. So the direction of the needle is above the second molar tooth. What are the indications? As I have told you that this tooth anesthetizes the pulps of tooth number 6, 7 and 8, that is first molar, second molar and third molar. In some cases, the mesiobuccal root of the first molar, about 28%, it does not get anesthetized by PSA nerve block. In that case, we give infiltration above that root. But in 72% of the cases, whole of the tooth number 6, that is first molar, it does get anesthetized. What are the indications? The indications are if more than 2 molars are involved. More than 2 molars are involved. Let's say if patient wants to get tooth number 7 extracted. In that case, since only one tooth is involved, we should not give PSA nerve block, we will only give infiltration. But if patient wants to get tooth number 6, 7 and 8 all extracted at once, in that case, since more than 2 teeth are involved, we will give PSA nerve block. Other scenario, in case patient wants to get upper third molar, that is his or her wisdom tooth extracted, which is impacted. Basically, for the disimpaction of third molar, we will use PSA nerve block. If a patient wants to get his impacted tooth disimpacted, in that case, we will give PSA nerve block. That is in case of disimpaction of third molars. Now, contraindications. One of the contraindication is if there is acute infection or inflammation is present at the site of injection. Second is, since PSA nerve block has a greater chance of patient having hematoma, we do not give PSA nerve block in patients who have any kind of bleeding disorders, for example hemophilia or von Willebrand's disease. Bleeding disorders. Basically, the three techniques that we have discussed so far: infiltration, PSA nerve block and infraorbital nerve block. These techniques are used to give anesthesia on the buccal side. Of course, palatal infiltration will give anesthesia on the palatal side as well, but infraorbital nerve block and PSA nerve block are basically used to anesthetize the pulps of the teeth, and they anesthetize the mucobuccal area related to the buccal side. Now we will discuss the anesthesia techniques that will anesthetize the palatal side of the maxilla. Technique number 4 is nasopalatine nerve block. Nasopalatine nerve block. The nasopalatine nerve block, it anesthetizes the palatal area starting from one canine, that is starting from the distal of one canine to the distal of other canine. In other words, it anesthetizes the area from 1-3 to 2-3, that is 1-3, 1-2, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2 and 2-3 on the palatal side. The area of injection or the target area is between the two central incisors. Between two central incisors on palatal side. When do we give nasopalatine nerve block? When we have to work on more than 2 teeth. That is when more than 2 teeth are involved. Or if there is acute infection or inflammation present at the site of injection, in case we want to treat either a single tooth or 2 teeth. For example, let's say if we want to extract upper left lateral incisor, in a normal scenario we will give 2 infiltration, one on the buccal side and one on the palatal side. But let's say if there is pus on the palatal side restricted to the 1-2 tooth, that is restricted to left lateral incisor, in that case we can no longer give infiltration. So in that case we will give nasopalatine nerve block. So if there is infection or inflammation which stops us to give infiltration. What are the contraindications for nasopalatine nerve block? Of course, if there is infection or inflammation or pus at the site of injection, that is at the target area. Infection or inflammation. Friends, the next technique is greater palatine nerve block. Greater palatine nerve block. The area that this technique anesthetizes is from the mesial of the first premolar to the distal of the third molar on the palatal side. From tooth number 4 to tooth number 8. It anesthetizes the palatal mucoperiosteum. What is the target area for greater palatine nerve block? It is basically near the it is basically in the greater palatine canal, which is on the palatal side related to second molar tooth. Second molar tooth. Sometimes it is closer to midway between the first molar and second molar tooth on the palatal side. What are the indications? When we want to anesthetize the palatal area for more than 2 teeth. Let's say if a dentist wants to do the scaling and root planning on whole of the maxilla, so in that case, to anesthetize the teeth number 4 to 8, we will give greater palatine nerve block because more than 2 teeth are involved. What are the contraindication? The contraindication is if there is any kind of acute infection or inflammation present at the site of injection. The next technique that we will discuss is maxillary nerve block. The maxillary nerve block, this is the technique that we use in the end when all of our weapons are down. Maxillary nerve block, it can be given through 2 approaches. One is high tuberosity and the second one is greater palatine canal approach. Maxillary nerve block, it anesthetizes whole of the maxilla on that side. Let's say if we administer maxillary nerve block on left side, it will anesthetize buccal as well as palatal mucoperiosteum, the pulps of all of the teeth on that particular side. The target area for maxillary nerve block is similar to that of PSA nerve block. In case of high tuberosity approach, and the target area in case of greater palatine canal approach is like greater palatine nerve block, but it is somewhat deeper. What are the indications? Before I move on to indication, I want to tell you that in case you want to administer maxillary nerve block, out of these 2 techniques, the technique that gets the priority is high tuberosity approach. We always prefer to give high tuberosity approach. If patient cannot get this high tuberosity approach, only then we move on to greater palatine canal approach. We avoid greater palatine canal approach in small children or in kids. That is, in kids, we don't give greater palatine canal approach. The high tuberosity approach, it also has greater chances of hematoma or hemorrhage. So we don't give a high tuberosity approach in bleeding disorder patients. But in case of greater palatine canal approach, the chances of hematoma are not there, so we can give greater palatine canal approach in case a patient has hemophilia or von Willebrand's disease. Let me give you an example where we use maxillary nerve block. Let's say if a patient wants to get his second premolar tooth extracted, but there is cellulitis present above canine, premolar, first premolar and second premolars. In that case, we can no longer give infiltration, we cannot give infraorbital nerve block. The only technique that we are left with is maxillary nerve block. Another example. Let's say the patient wants to get his second molar extracted, second molar, but there is pus present near the greater palatine canal on the palatal side. In that case, we cannot give infiltration because whole of the area is involved with infection. We cannot give greater palatine nerve block. The only technique that we are left with is maxillary nerve block. So basically, this is the last weapon that we use. So when all of the other maxillary techniques they fail, we give maxillary nerve block.